What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the video. If you haven't noticed, over the last few months I've been sick. I've had different holiday things to go to, different weddings to be part of, and stuff like that, and I'm good now. So 2023, let's do this. Today I'm going to be doing a tier list on every single MCU product, so I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on each of these when I try to give enough time, but you know, it's a lot of stuff, and this list is going to be irrelevant in like 3 months anyways, so it doesn't really matter. As usual, we have amazing, we have good, we have okay, we have bad, and we have booty. Now, with that said, guys, I did see everything on this list, and I have some opinions. If you have differing opinions or you agree with me, let me know in the comments below. Now, with that said, guys, let's begin. Now, one thing on this list you might realize right off the bat is that they also have like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans and the Sony Spider-Mans, and I think the reason for that is because technically they're now canon to the MCU, so that's why they're here. So we're going to keep them in this list as well. Now, with that said, let us truly begin. I'm going to try to go in chronological order, so let's see how we do. The first movie on this list is Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, and this is, oh man, I gotta say, at least good. There's a lot of movies on here that are amazing. Comparative, this is still a great movie, and I would understand if you put it in amazing, but I think for what it is, it's still really good. This movie was really good when it came out in theaters, and I think it still holds up very well. I'd say the only issue with this movie, and it's not really this movie's fault, it's just kind of, you know, the passing of time, I guess you could say, is that this movie, unfortunately, has some really rough-looking CGI. But, like I said, it's not really the movie's fault. It's just, you know, time. It's the passing of time. And, you know, that's just the way it is. But if I was going to give this movie a fault, that would be the fault. And that's really not even that bad of a fault. Some people really complain about the Green Goblin's look in this, and I think it looks awesome. I think it's a good combination of, like, what a military comic book scientist guy would make. You know, he'd make something, like, more scary to be, like, the goblin inside him. And then he'd also, you know, it'd have a little bit more of an armor to it. So I always thought it made sense. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I always like it. I still like it. Yeah, so overall, good movie. I'll put it right there. Next one on the list, it would be Spider-Man 2. And guys, this is amazing. I'd understand the argument for good, but you cannot put this one in okay. This thing still holds up. It's still the very best of the Sam Raimi trilogy, in my opinion. And one of the best, if not still the best Spider-Man movie in my mind, honestly. So good. Still holds up. The train fight, still amazing. Still one of like the best superhero fights in all of superhero movies. I guess if you're going to give this a con, you could say the idea of Peter and Mary Jane kind of like clashing, you know, maybe it gets old after a while, but that's just kind of like their romance. That's kind of like how they are. So I'm okay with it. I would understand if some people found it annoying, but I really like it. And of course, still great movie. Some CGI is still rough, but like I said, it is what it is and looks great. So we're going to keep on going. Spider-Man 3. I think Spider-Man 3 is good now. I used to not like this. And I used to think of it as like the worst movie of a lot of Marvel movies. But I will say this. As time has gone on, I think it has aged very well. You know, it's still like more like campy, a little bit more cartoonish, I guess you could say, compared to the previous two. Like the previous two kind of took more of a realistic stance with a hint of comic book, where this one might have overdid the comic book part of things. But I think it holds up a lot better than it did, right? Like there's some movies that come out and they do really well, and then as time goes on, people kind of like look back on them like, you know what? I don't know. That's kind of a rough movie, you know. And then there's some movies where it comes out, it's rough, and then 20 years later, you look at it and you're like, wow, that's actually a pretty solid movie. So I think this is one of them. I would understand if you put this in okay, and I wouldn't be mad if you put it in bad. But this is definitely not a booty movie. It's at least bad. But for me, I really like it. I think it's good. So with that, we're moving on. So I think after that, the closest one now would actually be 2008's Iron Man. So let's do that. I think this is really good. I might actually put it a little bit in front of the original Spider-Man. Overall, a super solid beginning to introducing the character of Tony Stark. The idea that he's like this rich billionaire playboy. He's not a philanthropist yet, but you know, he was a military guy, and he followed the money because that's what he always was like, you know, thought that's what he was supposed to do, until he realized what that money was actually doing and the people he was hurting. And so he turned it around and he made a different way to make wealth for himself and help the world. And I think that was a really cool character arc for Tony, and it was only just the beginning of the MCU. So it is interesting, though, to really look at this idea of what the MCU is now, because introducing Tobey Maguire into the story, Iron Man is no longer like the first movie, right? I mean, technically, if you look at like from the timeline of the movies, it would be the first Avenger you'd watch first. But I'm going off of like the release date in our time. If that wasn't obvious, it is cool to have like different viewing orders if you want to change things up. You know, you can watch by the timelines of the phases in the universe, or you can watch it by the actual, you know, way they were released in real life. So I think that's a really cool idea of like changing up the canon. So the stories are still the same, but you can kind of go on different adventures, you know, to still meet at the same head point, but, you know, do what you want to do on the way there, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Iron Man still holds up. People like to complain about the Ironmonger. Thought he was kind of like boring. I think, you know, he was the first villain. He was perfect for what he was supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? He was supposed to act as somewhat of an anti-Tony in a way. And I do think that maybe some of the other Iron Mans kind of suffer from that too, if you know what I mean. Like the idea that every other Iron Man kind of just has like an anti-Tony in it. I think this one did it the best, although I do like Justin Hammer. Next one, I'm trying to dedicate at least a minute of conversation to each one of these movies to do them justice, but there's just so many. So I'm going to try to break it down to 30 seconds each. So let's do this. Okay, next would be The Incredible Hulk, which wasn't technically part of the MCU, but then it was, which is interesting they did that. The post-credit scene pretty much is like, hey, so it is part of the MCU, kinda. It depends. If you want to see it, it is, but also, you know, if you guys complain, then it's not, you know? So it's kind of funny how they did this. The thing about The Incredible Hulk was, when this first came out, I actually thought it was a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk, the one that came out in like 2004. And in a way, it was kind of like a soft reboot slash continuation of that movie, because, you know, you have Bruce in that movie go off and do his own thing at the end. And then this one kind of begins where that one leaves off, but it also doesn't. So it's like one of those things where, like, we don't know if this is going to join this big MCU idea these guys have, or this could also be a sequel to the other Hulk we did. So whatever you want to do, that's kind of how this movie is. And I think it's bad. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you guys off. I put it in good. That was an accident. I have to say it's bad. I would understand a argument for okay, and there are elements of this movie that are good. But overall, if we're comparing the MCU movies, it's bad. It just doesn't compare. Now, the thing I will say about this movie is that it's a lot better than it used to be, but it's still not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, on its own, I might say it's actually an okay film, but if you're comparing the rest of the MCU movies, nah, it's in bad. It doesn't even compare to a lot of them. So we're going to put it there. We're moving on to the next one. Next one would be Iron Man 2. I think that it is a lot better than it used to be too. I'm actually going to put it in okay. At one time, this was my least favorite, and the reason was because it felt like a movie that they produced because money. You know, because Iron Man 1 was like a sleeper hit. Like, people didn't expect it to really hit the way it did. So they're like, okay, Iron Man 2, let's get the ball rolling on this Avengers idea, you know. And so they really started pushing it in Iron Man 2, and that might have taken away from the overall narrative. I do know that there's like a whole nother movie about Iron Man 2 that's apparently better. And what I mean by that is like Iron Man 2, the original script and what they filmed was completely different from the release. It was more hardcore, more deep to the characters and the story, including Whiplash's character, which apparently he had like a much deeper story as well. And actually Mickey Rourke was really angry because they cut a lot of his stuff and just made him like a generic bad guy. I would like to see this extended version or this alternate version, because apparently they did finish it and they didn't like it, so they quickly just went back and cut a lot of things. But I would like to see that original version. Is it better than this Iron Man 2? Is it not? I don't think a lot of people really care very much, but I would like to see it, especially considering, looking back now, this movie is a lot better because I know the rest of the story. It is understandable if people don't like this movie. So with that said, it's going in the okay category. We're moving on. Okay, next one would be Thor. Thor? Yes, it was Thor next. Thor. I think Thor's okay. I'm going to put a little bit in front of Iron Man 2. It was a good origin story. I think it worked well as a fish out of water story to kind of show who Thor is, kind of get him out of his element, and have him prove to us why we want to root for him. It does a solid job. I just think the biggest issue with Thor 1 is that it's just very stale. Not that it's bad. It doesn't really push the envelope anywhere. And it does its job, right? Like, so it does its job, but it doesn't go above and beyond, if you know what I mean. So that's what I'm going to say for that. I think it's fine. Next one, we're doing Captain America, the First Avenger. This one, I feel like gets, I wouldn't say it gets hate. I think it just doesn't get as much appreciation for what it deserves, in my opinion. There it is. I'm going to put it up here in good. I actually really like it. I'll probably put it, I don't know, on a given day, I'm going to put it a little bit in front of Spider-Man 1. I really like this movie. I think that this movie, like I said, doesn't get hate, but it doesn't get as much praise as it deserves. It does a really good job showing Chris Evans, improving him. I remember when they first announced him for Captain America, I was like, that funny dude in what was it? It was the teen movie. Not another teen movie. You're telling me that guy, you know, the main character, not a teen movie, and Johnny Storm. You're telling me that the funny dude in all the movies I ever see him, he's going to be the big heroic Captain America. There's no way this is going to work out. And I was wrong. He did a great job. And Captain America, he's great. I don't think you could ever choose anyone better than Chris Evans. Looking back now, I mean, maybe there was someone at the time. But really looking at it, he was like the perfect choice. And as we saw, it was the perfect choice. If there's a con, I guess I would say that Red Skull was a little too generically bad villain. But then again, Red Skull was a Nazi, right? So like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter how dynamic of a character you are, or maybe you did, you know, you steal from the rich and you give to the poor. You're still a Nazi, so you're like, you know, you're instantly a bad guy, right? So like, that's one of those things with when it comes to being like, if you really want people to not like a character, make him a Nazi, boom, he's instantly a bad guy. So it's just, it's an easy way to do that, but it makes sense in the story, and I think it works. So we're going with that. Next one would be the Avengers. As time has gone on, the Avengers is definitely still good. At one time, I did think it was amazing, but I do think that other movies and the way that storylines have kind of progressed over time, this movie has kind of fallen down a bit on the scale, but still really good. It did a great job bringing all the characters together. If I was to give it a con, maybe the aspect ratio. Okay, so people may not really realize it, but every other movie has the same aspect ratio in the MCU except for this one. This one has like an IMAX aspect ratio, which is fine, but it's like they still haven't like gave the option to have either. So it's not a big deal, and for like 99% of people it doesn't matter. But for me, as someone who really likes visuals and the way that things work like that, it does bother me a bit when I watch that movie compared to the other ones. Like I said, not really a con per se, but for me, that is a con. Overall, though, like I said, this would be an amazing, and the majority of these, well, these three might actually be an amazing if we didn't already have other MCU movies that are more amazing that kind of push them down a little bit to good. The whole reason is I can't put them all in amazing. You know what I mean? I want to put them in amazing, but I feel like amazing should be like for the top tier boys. You know what I'm saying? So like, in a way, good is still potentially amazing, right? But amazing is like top tier amazing. So these are great, but they're getting pushed down into good. Next one. That would be Iron Man 3. I think Iron Man 3 is... I have to put it in bad. I gave this movie a chance. I like it more. I think it's one of those movies, like I said earlier about Iron Man 2, it is better now because of what we know later, right? The different elements that we know now based off the story that has progressed, it is a better movie. But this movie, it is rough. It does a lot of different things that I think that it had some very interesting storylines they could have followed, like the idea of like Tony and his PTSD, you know, like the post-traumatic stress disorder. He was like great. Like that was such an interesting concept. They introduced it right at the beginning of the film, and then they just kind of forget about it. And I'm like, this is so cool. Why didn't they do that more? Give me more of that. That is juicy. That's the juicy stuff. That's what we want. And they didn't. For a lot of people, this is what it seems, for me anyways. This is what I've collected over the years of this movie being out. It's almost a 10-year-old movie now, which is crazy. Kind of blows my mind to think that, but it is. If you are a big Shane Black fan, then Iron Man 3 is like a great movie to you. If you're not, it's an awful movie. I like Shane, but I'm not like the biggest fan of his. Ultimately for me, I think it's just hindering. It feels like there wasn't that next step. This movie has like a feeling that would have been part of phase 1, if you know what I mean. Like the phase 1 movies were all more grounded, a little bit more like level-headed. They didn't overdo things. They kind of kept things nice and secure. They kept it grounded, like I said. The first Avengers opened up like the floodgates for what could be possible next. And what I mean by that is Iron Man 1 was relatively grounded. Iron Man 2, while maybe worse than Iron Man 1, it also had that next step up. The Avengers took the next step, kind of opening this whole new universe to more cosmic, more magical abilities and stuff like that. So then Iron Man 3 had the promotion of the Mandarin coming to attack, and it looked great. It was doing good so far in the movie, and we're thinking, okay, this is cool. This makes sense. You know, we introduced the idea of like aliens and more mystical stuff when it came to the first Avengers. So now we can take that next step. We can actually have Iron Man actually go up against another mystical being and see how he does. But then they kind of falter a bit, and they go back and they make it all a joke. And looking back, I really didn't like that, and I know a lot of other people didn't like that either, and that really hindered this film. Now that I'm all caught up on all the movies and TV show, I don't think that whole joke thing hinders this movie as much. But if you're going to compare this movie to a lot of other movies on this list, it's just bad. Like, it doesn't compare. So, I'm going to put it in bad. Does it have some good things? Yeah. You know, I actually did like the fact that Tony kind of took that, the kid under his wings, and they did some cool stuff together. I liked that. And there were some elements of that PTSD that were kind of involved in those parts. And when they get into that, the movie gets really good. And then it just kind of forgets about it again. It does that a lot. Here it is. Oh, we forgot about it. Oh, here it is again. A little bit. And now we forgot about it. Oh, here it is again. Oh, we forgot about it again. And then Killian is introduced. And it's just like, why are these two different movies? I think that's the biggest issue. It felt like Marvel had the idea for Iron Man 3, or like the previous writers had the idea for what was going to be with Iron Man 3 and the PTSD. And then Shane Black was like, okay, well, I'll take that story. I'm going to condense it. I'm going to make a joke. And then that's when my movie is more in there. And that's what it kind of feels like. And I don't like it. So it's going in bad. But I would potentially understand an argument for okay. But for me, it's bad. Next one, I guess based off chronological order, I can't remember which one came next. Thor: The Dark World or The Amazing Spider-Man? Actually, no, The Amazing Spider-Man was 2012, wasn't it? So I missed it. Okay, let's just do The Amazing Spider-Man. Let's get them out of the way. The Amazing Spider-Man, I think it's okay. I'm actually going to put a little bit in front of Thor 1. On any given day, I could switch them up. I think that The Amazing Spider-Man, initially when it came out, it was too soon. For a lot of the guys that were my age at this time, let me see, this was 10 years ago now. So I grew up with Tobey as my Spider-Man. And for years, I was waiting for Spider-Man 4. Never got it. Well, The Amazing Spider-Man comes out, and I think that just really hindered a lot of people's opinions on this movie. The fact that it just felt like it was too soon. It wasn't even 10 years yet. It was 7, right? Because, wait. Wasn't the Spider-Man 3 2005? That was 2006. No, wait, Spider-Man 3 was 2007. So it was only 5 years and they rebooted. If that was 2007, this was 2012. There was only 5 years and they rebooted the franchise. They rebooted one of the most popular franchises at the time in 5 years. It was just too soon. Way too soon. And I think that was like the biggest hindrance. And that was actually for me too. I still gave it a chance. I still went into it. But even though I think it did some pretty cool stuff, ultimately it was hindered in my mind because it wasn't as good as the movie trilogy that just ended 5 years prior. It was a really bad call by Sony. Just a big mistake. Huge. But you want to know a bigger mistake than the first Amazing Spider-Man? The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie is very bad. I might actually put it behind The Incredible Hulk. I can't say booty, but I would 100% understand if you said that. It was just trying to do way too many things at once. It was rough. It was rough altogether. The best part about these movies, though, I will say this. I'm going to defend this to the end of my days. While these movies, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, might be really rough and have barely anything of worth, the best thing in these movies was the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. I would make an argument that these two movies are only worth watching truly if you hate everything else about them, the only true, just great thing about them is Emma and Andrew's on-screen relationship. Their chemistry, it's worth watching. Everything else, though, it's rough. Although I will say this, the Amazing Spider-Man 2's costume is amazing. Let's be honest. That's true. I feel like there was something good there, and then the studio came in and messed with it too much. And based off of like what I've seen online, that's exactly what happened. So I'd like to see what Mark Webb's official, I think his name Mark Webb, the original director. I'd like to see what his original vision was for it before that Sony was like, oh, the MCU's taken off. Let's make our own Sonyverse, and that's what happened. And they crashed and burned bad. So hey, that's the way the game goes. Yeah. So we're gonna leave it there. Moving on to the next one. So what do we have? We need we're like 2013 time, so that would be Thor: The Dark World, which is right here. Rewatching this recently, I actually liked this when it came out. As time went on, I started to see more of the cracks in it. I still don't think it's that bad, though. I'm going to probably put it right behind Iron Man 2. There's a lot of entertaining things about this movie. I would understand, though, if people don't like it. Like, I'm not against someone saying it's bad. If they think it's booty, like, I'd understand that. If you think it's amazing, I might go against your idea. But if you think it's good, yeah, that's okay. This was definitely a movie that was kind of made with the idea of, like, can we capture more of the Lord of the Rings feel with them? Like, Thor 1 kind of had that feel, and then they're like, hey, let's get more of a Lord of the Rings type of idea from this. And I could see that argument. It is more of a deeper film. It's got elements that are kind of more methodical, which makes sense. It's based off of Thor. It should be more of Norse mythology. Makes sense. But Thor 1 was one of those things where like people complain that while it was a solid origin film, it wasn't really a Thor movie very much because there wasn't much of like the rest of the universe around Thor. It was like just Thor running around on Earth. Where this one really did kind of dive deeper into the extra elements that go into what builds Thor's universe and the mythology behind him. So I appreciate that, and I think that a lot of people kind of overlook that element to this. They just go, oh, boring movie, boring characters, Malekith sucks, that's it. I think that Malekith could have been a really good villain. I think there was something there that could have been great, and I feel like they didn't go all the way with him, and it kind of just kept him very plain. So I understand that argument too. For me, it's going to go low okay. Like I said, I understand the argument for bad. But I'm going to put it low okay. Next one, we have potentially one of the best Marvel movies ever. I think it's Captain America next. I might have missed one. Did I miss one? Guardians of the Galaxy, of course. How did I miss Guardians? Okay, so Guardians is... I like it a lot. I'm going to put it in front of The Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's a very okay movie. I get hate on this a lot because a lot of people love Guardians 1. I personally think Guardians 2 is the better, more cohesive story. It's more fun, more adventurous. But I understand the appeal of the first one and the idea of this ragtag team coming together and a bunch of misfits kind of working together to do their thing. People really love it. Kind of feels like if Han Solo put like his own squad together. I think that's why a lot of people like that element behind it. More like a sillier Han Solo, like Star-Lord. So I think it works really well for what they're trying to do. I didn't used to like it as much, but I definitely came around to it. I used to just kind of view it as Star Wars on crack. I used to say that, and people would be like, I disagree. Well, okay, I understand the argument, because that's kind of what it is. And I used to use that as a more of an insult, but as time has gone on, I've come more to the idea of it being a compliment, because these characters really do progress the universe and make it so much more better. So I'm gonna say that I think that they're a high okay. I would understand if you thought they were good or amazing though. You couldn't say bad though. I don't think Guardians is bad, but I'm gonna say a high okay. Next one, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, I don't know. Depending on what I'm in the mood for, these two could switch. If I want like just like a prime superhero movie, Spider-Man's it, But if I want like just a hardcore, superhero, but also like espionage, military, that's the one thing I'll say about the Winter Soldier compared to a lot of other movies here. I don't think you can ever really even compare anything else. Maybe Black Widow in a way, but this movie is not only just a solid superhero movie, But if you didn't really even care about the superhero aspect and you just looked at them as like super soldiers, this movie is still just great. Like, you could effectively watch this movie without having to watch any of the MCU movies and still really enjoy the story. Of course, there are some elements that would kind of fit a little better, but this movie itself, you can just watch and really just enjoy by itself, on its own, even if you don't like superhero movies. I'm going to put it here. It's amazing. I'm going to put it a little behind Spider-Man 2 right now, but like tomorrow I could wake up and I might switch these. So that's just how good those two movies are. They're going up there. Okay, next one. We have The Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie gets a lot more hate than it deserves. I actually think it's a little better than the first Avengers. For a long time, I actually thought that it was the weakest of the Avengers movies. But looking at the full story now that I know the whole story and it's more cohesive altogether, we know like point A to point Z. We know that now. I do think Ultron is actually the more solid movie than Avengers 1. I think the reason for that is because the Avengers 1, while still fun, still comic booky, it still feels a lot more loose. Where the Avengers Age of Ultron feels more solid, more cohesive. And another big aspect to it is that Ultron is just so much more threatening than Loki is. You know, like, Loki was our big bad of the Avengers. He worked really well as like the first true villain for them all. But he wasn't really like scary. You know, he wasn't really threatening. But then you introduce this robot who is supposed to be peaceful and ends up not realizing what peace truly is and turns into evil. He has the voice of James Spader, and he makes him sound super charismatic, but also like there's that cynical side to him. I just think overall Ultron is so great, and I feel like he was a little underutilized in the movie. But as far as the villain goes, I think that's what really sells this movie for me. And of course, all the characters coming together, and we got the introduce of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I just think I like the movie more. I would understand if you would put it behind the other Avenger. I get that. But for me, Age of Ultron, it is the highest good so far on our list. I'm going to put it there. So, I'll probably get some hate for that. But that's how I feel. Like I said, I could wake up tomorrow and put this one in okay, though. So, but for right now, put it in good. That's the way it is. Okay, Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man's okay. I'm going to put Ant-Man, like, behind Thor: The Dark World. For me, the Ant-Mans are like side stories. They kind of feel like a side quest. Or maybe I shouldn't say like a side quest, but like, do you know like those escort missions? Like there's side quest escort missions in games. When you're playing a game, you got your main missions, you got your side quests that are interesting, then you have like that one side escort mission that takes forever. It's just kind of okay. And you're just kind of like, you know, I don't really think I want to do this. I'm just going to not do it. It's a side quest. I'm just not going to do it. Ant-Man is kind of that way. I skip the Ant-Mans when I watch these because they are just kind of side quests. I do think that Ant-Man Quantumanium is going to be a big deal. So I'm excited for that one. But I think that these first two were just very side questy. And in fact, I'm just going to knock the other one out a while. Because I think that it was a little bit less good than Ant-Man 1. So I'm just going to put them in the same spot. Still think they're fine. But I would understand an argument if you thought they're completely booty. So I'm going to put them there. They're low, okay. Let's move on. We're going into Phase 3. The first one of Phase 3 was... Oh, man. So long ago now. It doesn't feel long ago, but it was. Was that Captain America 3? I think it was. This one's amazing. This is amazing. A little bit behind Winter Soldier in my mind. At one time when I first saw the movie, I actually thought it was just okay. Just because I think I was expecting something different. And as time has gone on and I've seen how the story has evolved because of this movie kind of acts as like a Avengers 2.5. It's great. So it's going in amazing. If I was going to give it cons, I think it did a great job with everything. I don't really think there's anything truly to con over. The biggest thing for me, I guess I could say, was because of the narrative of Zemo, it was very luck oriented. Like everything that he did was very lucky type of thing. But for the story was telling, I've come around to it. Like for me, for those of you who don't know, I'm a writer myself. So when I see narrative points be made that don't seem like they make sense and they're just kind of being made to get from point A to point B, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that. But because of what has transpired because of this movie, I like this movie a lot more, so I'm gonna put it in amazing. I think it works really good. Avengers 2.5, it's great. So it's going in amazing. Next one, that would be, I don't know. I'm just gonna do Phase 3 stuff, then we'll move on from there. So Guardians Volume 2. I actually like this one more than the first one. I'm gonna put it in good, like right there. I think not as good as Spider-Man 1. A little better than Spider-Man 3. Overall, I just think that the story itself feels more iconic, I guess you could say. Maybe not iconic, but more epic, right? Like it feels like it's more the story that James Gunn really wanted to tell in a way. Like Guardians 1 was more of like the setup to this world. Guardians 2 was more of like where he wanted to go with the characters. And I think it works really well. I'm excited for the third one. It does look like it's going to be a more slower paced film, but I could be wrong. So I guess we'll see. Doctor Strange, I think, is okay. I'm actually going to put it above Guardians. I used to think it was pretty bad. And the reason for that is because it just felt very, very complicated. I wouldn't really say rushed, but just kind of felt like it needed more time to cook. But as time has gone on, and like I said, with the other movies coming out, it actually lifted this movie up too. So I'm going to put it in a high okay. So that's the way it's going to go. Spider-Man Homecoming, I think it's okay too. I'm actually going to put a little bit in front of Doctor Strange. People might be mad at me, but I do think that Spider-Man 3 was a better Spider-Man movie than Homecoming. I think that Homecoming maybe relied too much on the MCU itself to truly be able to kind of tell its own story. And for some, that might be good, but I kind of wanted Peter to kind of just do more of his own stuff. He's linked a little bit too much to Iron Man for the first two of his movies. I love Iron Man. It's great to see him. And I think those two work really well together. They have a really good chemistry. But I kind of want to see Peter do his own thing more. And I think what bothers me most about this movie, the biggest con, I actually forgot about that until right now. But like at the very end, the Vulture like sabotages himself. It's like one of those things where it's like, why is he doing this? This is Sony writing. You know what I mean? Like MCU has some rough writing sometimes, but there's Sony writing where like things just don't make sense. Like at the end, when Spider-Man's going to take down the plane that's getting away, he would have been fine. All he had to do was knock him off. That would have been it. So he goes on the plane, but instead of doing that, the Vulture just starts destroying the plane, which causes the plane to crash. He didn't have to do that, but he like purposely destroys the plane, and it's like, what are you doing? Like why did you write the Vulture like pretty decent until this moment where he like sabotages himself? That has bothered me since this movie has come out. No one has talked about it. I don't know why. But, I mean, maybe some people have, but I've never seen a review of this where someone actually mentioned it. It has bothered me since the beginning. Still does. And I can't put it in good because of that. That's bad writing to do that. Like give an actual reason. Maybe they start fighting on the plane and then the Vulture would accidentally throw Spider-Man against the controls. That's the different thing. But this one was like the Vulture specifically destroyed his plane trying to destroy Peter. It don't make sense. So it's going to go in a high okay. I still think it's a sweet film. It's got its moments, but yeah, just dumb right in the end. It knocked it down for me. When Ragnarok first came out, I didn't like it because I felt like it betrayed the idea of what Thor was. As time has gone on, though, I actually ended up liking it a lot more. I'm probably going to put it somewhere like up here. The thing about Ragnarok, what I mentioned about like them betraying the original Thor, is that Thor in 1 and 2 and the Avengers 1 and 2 is not the same Thor in this one. Like, yeah, they're the same character, but their personalities are almost completely different. And I did not like that at first. I thought like they made him too goofy. And then I saw Love and Thunder, and then I realized, oh wait, there's more. I think now that I see this movie, it is clear that Taika had more responsibilities that he had to follow. And then they're like, hey, Ragnarok was beloved, so do whatever you want. And then he just kind of went off the chain. And it shows in the final product. So yeah, I think Ragnarok is good. I like it a lot. It did change the Thor character. It reintroduced the Hulk into the universe after he was missing after Avengers 2. I would understand if you said amazing. I'd also understand if you said bad. Like, it's one of those movies where it's just kind of in between. So I'm going to put it in good. Next one, before we get to these big Avengers here, I'm going to do the rest of Phase 3. We're going to save these two for... Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the big Avenger boys for the very last. Just because there's some other ones I want to throw in here as we go. So we're going to save the big boys for last. Captain Marvel. I think that it's okay. A lot of people really don't like Captain Marvel. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that people don't like Brie Larson herself. I don't really care. I'm not really commenting on that. What I will say is that based on what it's supposed to be, based off of it being more of an origin film, people would mention that it's a little woke. That argument could be understandable. For me, though, it was supposed to be an origin film for Captain Marvel, and it did just that. I think it did a great job just being the origin movie it's supposed to be. I'm going to put it in an okay tier, right behind Doctor Strange, but maybe on a given day I'd actually put it in front of Doctor Strange. But for right now, it's going in the right behind him. Next, we have Black Panther, the first one. This one's good. I'm going to put this in good. The only con I have, and I think this is everyone's con with this movie, I think it's a very solid movie. You know, it's the Lion King with humans, which is fine. It's great. It's great. Killmonger is amazing. I really wish they'd bring him back in the future at some point. You know, Michael B. Jordan is just a great actor, though, so you know that's just the way it is. But his character himself is just great. I want to see more of him at some shape or form. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna put Black Panther right there for now. In my mind, that seems good. I think it's a really good movie. I will say that the biggest con, like I was about to say, and I got my different train of thought, but the biggest con, I think everyone agrees with me here, is the ending fight scene. I know they only did it in like 6 weeks. There was like some crunch time and something went wrong, so they changed the script on them, and the special effects only had 6 weeks to put that thing together, which in 6 weeks, that looks so good, but that needed a solid 12 weeks. They needed more than 12 weeks, you know what I'm saying? So I do hope that one day, because of Marvel being so rich, having so much money, I hope that one day Marvel is actually able to kind of go back and clean up some of the CGI in these movies. They rushed some of the CGI in a lot of these movies to get them out at a proper time, where a lot of CGI needed more time. So I do hope that because these movies are so successful and the franchise itself is incredibly successful, as we all know, I hope they do go back and kind of like redo a lot of the CGI just to kind of really just bring it up to being like this amazing standard. Because we know that Marvel has the money to do that. We've seen really good CGI in these movies, and we've also seen really, really trashy. And they should not be able to get away with it anymore, right? So let's fix it. Let's make every movie great looking again. And let's do it. So finishing up Phase 3, No Way Home. I'm going to put it a little bit in front of Homecoming. I would understand the argument for Homecoming being better, though. I just think for me, I think I like this one more. I think there's more going on. The story, they're actually kind of doing something. It feels like a vacation movie, and that's the point of it. That was kind of the idea. I like Mysterio. I think the biggest con is the fact that Tony Stark would trust his glasses with Peter. I don't think that would actually happen, but Tony was he had his quirks, so you know it is what it is. Overall, though, I do like the movie a little bit more than Homecoming. The plot, besides the glasses, it makes more sense. So we're gonna put that there. Any more Phase 3? I guess not really. Oh, I have the Venom movies. They're not technically, no. Okay, these are technically canon now. Yes, they are. So we'll count them. Venom 1 is bad, a little bit better than Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Venom Let There Be Carnage could be worse than Spider-Man 2. Now, I will say, they do have redeeming qualities. None of them are absolute trash, not even Let There Be Carnage. It's just the problem is Let There Be Carnage had the potential to be amazing. You had Venom, you had Carnage. All you needed to do was write an actual good story, and they just messed everything up. The CGI was bad. Everything was just bad about this movie. The only thing I'll say that was actually good was that Carnage was evil. They did make Carnage really evil. He wasn't an MCU evil. He was actually an evil Carnage, which was great. So, that's the only element I could actually say that's good. Everything else about this movie is bad. But because it does have some type of redeeming quality, it can't be booty. So we're going to put it there. One thing I will say, though, about the Venom movies is that their steelbooks are... like, they're amazing. Hang on one second. I'm going to get my steelbooks. Like, look at these steelbooks. You see that? Oh, look at them. Like, those... Like, look at that. I don't even like these movies. And they are both like $20 a piece. And just because they look so awesome, I had to pick them up. So, that's one positive thing I can say about these movies, is that their steelbooks are cool. So, there you go. Okay, so like I said, the only Phase 3 stuff that is left is the Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, but I'm going to save those for last because those are probably where I'm going to focus most of my attention on. Okay, jumping into Phase 4, I just realized my brain just put the pieces together, but there's actually some of the older Netflix stuff here, so let's do this stuff to get it out of the way. The Daredevil show, the Jessica Jones show, the Nick Cage show, or Luke Cage show, Nick Cage. I want the Nick Cage show. I don't know about you. That sounds great. Daredevil show. I remember really thinking it was cool. But if we're comparing it to the movies, I'm probably going to put it in the okay. I remember really liking season 1. And then season 2 was okay to me. It had its moments. I think the biggest con was that it's been a long time since I've actually watched these shows. It's probably not even fair for me to rank them because it's been so long. It's been like 2014 since I watched any of them. Like, that's a long time ago. I thought it was maybe like right there. That's like a solid spot for that, I guess. Jessica Jones, I remember liking it actually a little bit more than Daredevil. A lot of people disagreed with me at the time. That's fair. I just thought that it was interesting to see her character done in a way that was like grounded, and like back then it wasn't like our whole MCU and everything about it wasn't so woke, right? So I did like the idea that Jessica Jones was kind of just like real, like she was a real character. She wasn't just like this super good female superhero, you know what I mean? Like, she was actually a character. She was a detective first who had some rough moments, who also happened to have some superpowers on the side. You know, it wasn't the fact that she was a female that was thrown in your face a lot, which is really nice. I respected that a lot. Luke Cage, I think I liked season 1 was really solid until Copperhead dies. When they killed off, no, not Copperhead, Cottonmouth. That's right. Copperhead follows up Cottonmouth, I think. Been a long time, I'm pretty sure. But Cottonmouth was great, and then they kill him off, and then the show just never really gets better without Cottonmouth in it. So we're gonna go okay. Next, The Punisher. Oh man, this was like the last one they made, right? I remember thinking it was cool. It had a lot of cool developments about it, but I can't remember it very well. So I'm just gonna say like a low okay. Probably not fair for me to really rank that one because I don't really remember it as much as the other ones. But yeah. Oh, Iron Fist. I remember Iron Fist being bad. Like, I remember people being like, "Oh, Iron Fist is bad. Iron Fist is bad," and I was like, "It can't be that bad, guys." And I watched. I'm like, "Oh, maybe you're right." It's a little better than Venom, but yeah. The best part was I actually did like the main actor. I know a lot of people didn't like him. I thought he was cool. I liked him. I think if they were to take him and they were to do Iron Fist again, like they did with Daredevil, they brought back Charlie Cox for Daredevil in the MCU. If they were to bring him in and give him actual good material, I think he could do a really good job. The problem was, it seemed like the writers didn't know how to write the story, so it really just hindered him, I think, personally. But that's just me. That's how I feel. Then we got the Defenders, which I think was okay. I think it was cool to see them all to come together. Maybe a little less good than Daredevil. I think on a given day I might switch any of these 4 around, honestly. But you know, if you're comparing them to all of the MCU stuff, it's just very okay. You know, on their own they might be considered good though, but compared to everything else, they're just okay. Now that said, guys, I guess we are all caught up with our other stuff. Oh wait, hold on. How could I forget? Hold up. How could I miss it? Morbius, yo, Morbius is amazing. It's better than Spider-Man 2. It's going right up there. That's just it. If you have a problem, well, you just don't know good movies. You have bad opinions. That's just the way it is. Anyways, moving on to the next one. We have, okay, no, I can't even do that. Morbius legit is the worst movie. No, okay, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to put Morbius a little bit in front of Venom 2. Because Morbius was the first one in its own, like, universe, right? Or I shouldn't say own universe, but its own franchise. So there's the Venom franchise. You're allowed to kind of make mistakes because you're supposed to have it fixed by the second one. Morbius is the first one in its franchise. It's probably going to be the last of this franchise too. I think that Morbius could potentially be a cool character if he's part of an ensemble, right? But he's not meant to be a main character of his own story. Like the Hulk. The Hulk's really good when he is part of an ensemble. He's really good when he's behind the main guy, you know? I think it works really well. He's probably the same type of character, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe they are making a Morbius 2, and it's going to blow everyone away, and I'm going to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we all pretty much agree that that is a bad film. And hopefully, if they do bring him back, he will be a side character where he deserves to be. Although I do think Jared Leto gets a lot more hate than he deserves. I do understand the arguments against him too, so it is what it is. Okay, now we're officially jumping into Phase 4. Let's do this. I think it's okay. I'm going to probably put it like right here. I think it was interesting. I like the idea of it being all these different themes as the episodes go on. It tackles an interesting story that we didn't really see before done in any other MCU stuff, so I appreciate that. Although I will say that the trope of it ending with the bad guy effectively just being the good guy, just evil, that's probably the biggest issue, I'd say. But based off the story, it makes sense for it to be that way, so we're going to go with that. I think it's fine. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm going to have to put this on a low okay. I really wanted to like this show. I thought, like, you know, I thought this was going to be like, I won't say Civil War, but I thought they were going to go somewhere in the vein of like the Winter Soldier with this. I was expecting the Winter Soldier, but like a TV show type of thing. I just kind of feel like they focused too much on the message they were trying to send, right? Instead of the actual story and the characters, they kind of forgot. I can't say bad. It's not bad, but it's definitely not good. It's somewhere like in the okays. Maybe like right in front of the Marvel shows for right now. There's just something missing. I really don't know. I don't know why this show didn't catch me. I really can't complain much about it. I think it's fine. But I just think maybe because it was just fine and not like Winter Soldier amazing, it kind of brought it down for me even more. Because I thought the characters were fine. I do hear that they're making a season 2 of this. So I do kind of hope that while season 1 focused more on Sam, season 2 will focus more on Bucky. Because for me, while I love Sam, he's a great character. I love Anthony Mackie. You know, Sebastian's Bucky, he's still one of my favorite characters since the first Captain America movie, right? So I really want to see what he's going to do and what type of advancements he's going to go through in season 2. But yeah, hopefully we get more of him in the second season. Loki. I actually might like it more than most of the movies. I think it was a very interesting take. It definitely came out of nowhere, and it was very surprising. I don't understand an argument for good, but for right now, I'm going to put it in a high okay. I hope season 2 is even like deeper and even more like just crazy, but for right now, put it there. Shang-Chi, pretty standard film. I'm probably going to put it somewhere like in the middle of the films. Maybe like right here. Yeah, like it's a standard movie. Not good, not bad, just very okay. Like totally just like a plain pizza. You know, like you have pepperoni pizza, you know, and then you have like pizza without the cheese on it. You know, for the weirdos who only eat like bread and sauce, like, ugh, what are you doing? Shang-Chi is not pepperoni pizza, but it's not cheese and it's not just sauce and bread. You know, it's just a plain pizza. That's the best way I can kind of describe it. Although I did like a lot of the kung fu scenes. The bus fight was pretty cool, but the story itself was just very okay. So I think Shang-Chi is gonna be one of those characters, like I mentioned about who was that I mentioned earlier? Morbius. Shang-Chi is going to be one of those characters that's going to be really cool when he's got like a squad to kind of banter around with. You know, that's the type of character he is. He's at his best when he and his best friend are bantering. So it's going to be great to have like Shang-Chi, maybe Deadpool, and like, you know, She-Hulk. It's going to be cool to see all three of these just kind of like quirk back and forth with each other. So that's what I'm looking forward mostly with this character. But a solid beginning to the story. I guess we'll see what the next one is. Black Widow. I'm not going to spend forever hating on this movie. I'm just going to put it where it deserves to be, and that's going to be that. It is probably the best bad movie of the MCU movies. The biggest problem with this movie, the biggest hindrance, is the fact that it was released like 5 years too late. This movie should have came out right after Civil War, and it would have fit fine. I would have been perfectly fine with it. But it just feels like an afterthought film. I think that going forward, when people watch these movies in universe chronological order, this movie is going to be looked at as better. But I just think overall it's a very subpar film, and just very like no one cares type of film. And it shouldn't be that way, because this was like Black Widow's film. You know what I mean? She sacrificed herself, so effectively Tony would have to sacrifice himself, so that they all win, you know? And it's a shame. It was too late. It's a shame. That's all I'm going to say. What If? I think What If's okay. A lot of people really like What If. I think that they have a really interesting idea, and I think that they can really go a lot of places with it. But it feels like they played it safe for the first season, and I want to see what season 2 is going to really do. I think that's what it is. Season 1 was very safe, so give me season 2 and just make the story go super crazy. That's what I want to see. Hawkeye. Hawkeye was another show that's just very safe, very okay, like a plain pizza. I'm probably gonna put it somewhere around here too with Winter Soldier. I think I liked it a little bit more. Very safe, very okay. I'm gonna put it there. Next one, The Eternals. Now this is where I might actually get a lot of hate, but I think The Eternals is really good. I'm gonna put it up here like with maybe like right there. I really like The Eternals. The Eternals is a movie kind of like Zack Snyder's Justice League. And the reason why I make this comparison is that if you don't understand the vision of the director, or you disagree with their vision, you're instantly going to hate this movie off the bat. Like there's nothing you can do. It's just like it's engraved in your brain. You're just gonna dislike it. It's the worst movie. That's just the way it is. For me, and this might be because I am a writer myself, I'm able to look at the story. I do think there are elements to it that should be expanded upon, and I understand those arguments. But I can look at the story, and I can realize that the story itself is very good for what the director is trying to portray. So because of that, I'm going to put it in good. Like I said, I would understand an argument for bad, though. I'd understand if it didn't catch your fancy. I get that. But for me, it did. I think it's really good. So it's going to go right there. Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm actually going to save that one for last because that's a pretty big one in a way, you know. So we're going to put that there. Next, we have Moon Knight. Moon Knight was really good except for like the last episode. I think that's how all like these MCU shows are. Like they're all pretty good until the last episode. It's like, what the heck happened? It's still an okay show though. I'm going to put it like a little bit in front of Hawkeye, but so far they're all just kind of standard. Moon Knight was a show that was like, man, this should be a movie. There's a lot of these shows where I'm like, dang, this should just be a movie. If these were movies, they'd be a lot better, unfortunately. That's how I felt about Winter Soldier. I think the only one that really gets away with being a show is Loki. And, where was the other one? Loki and WandaVision. Those are the two that, like, it's understandable why they're shows. The rest of them should have just been movies, in my opinion. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I think it's okay. I'm going to probably put it like right behind Shang-Chi. No, I liked it a little more than Shang-Chi. I think the problem with Multiverse of Madness is that while it's a amazing Sam Raimi film, like if you're a fan of old-fashioned Sam Raimi, this movie is great, right? It is not the best Doctor Strange film because it's not really Doctor Strange film. It's definitely more of a Wanda is bad film. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of different elements that could have been explored and seen and pursued, I guess you could say, as far as like these different universes they tackle, but they don't go all the way with it. They kind of played it a little safe in a way, and I wanted more from it. I think that's the biggest issue with Multiverse of Madness. They could have won anywhere with it, and they played safe. So, you know, it's just okay. A little better than Shang-Chi for me, but I'm going to put it in okay. Next, Miss Marvel. Now, the thing about Miss Marvel is I really tried to like this show. I watched up to the 4th episode, and then I was like, you know, I think I'm done. I tried. I really tried to like this show, and maybe it's just me. It feels like it's not meant for me, which I think makes sense. Like this show wasn't meant for the MCU watcher. This show is meant for like teens now, maybe. I'm gonna guess. I don't know if teens now like it. If you're watching, you're a teen, let me know if you actually like this. But this show kind of felt like it wasn't meant for me. And like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like, as I was watching, I realized, oh, I'm not supposed to be watching this. This isn't meant for me. So, based off that perspective, I do think there are elements about it are quirky. I like the main actress. I think she's going to do really well in the MCU. I don't blame her at all. I just think it's the show itself and the subject matter, the story. It was just wasn't for me. So I'm going to put it in bad. That's it. It was just bad. I'd rather watch The Incredible Hulk than that. Everything else, though, I mean, it is better than Iron Fist and Venom and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Morbius and Venom, Let There Be Carnage. It is better than those, at least. It's just like, for me, like, I know that there is content in that show that is actually good. Like, I can feel that good content. It's just not taking me with it like everything else does, you know? So, I'm gonna put it in bad for now. I do think that she's gonna be a great character for the future though, but for right now, it goes in bad. I Am Groot. It was a cute show. I'm gonna say it's okay. Like it was supposed to just be a little silly little thing. Put it in front of like no, put it a little bit in front of the Punisher because I think I like the Punisher more. Groot was just one of those things that's just there. It's not supposed to be a big deal. It's fine. Let's do the holiday special. I actually like this too, but it's a little special thing like Groot goes there. Legends, Marvel Legends. I don't know what this is. Well, if I never heard of it, it's probably booty, so it's going in booty. Marvel Werewolf. I actually didn't see this one either, so I'm just gonna put it in. Okay, let's just do this. Since nothing on here is booty, we're gonna change this to haven't seen. Haven't seen. Just to make things clear. Okay, so it's no longer booty, it's now haven't seen. Haven't seen these two. I actually was unaware Werewolf was actually part of the MCU, which is interesting. Maybe I'll have to check it out now, but haven't seen it. Thor: Love and Thunder. I think Thor: Love and Thunder was pretty rough. I can't say bad, but it's pretty rough. Maybe a little bit in front of the Ant-Man. There are elements of Thor: Love and Thunder that are really good, but I think overall as a package, it's bad. I really like Christian Bale as the villain. I like Thor's costumes and the multiple different ones he had. I like the more spastic nature of it, but it just felt like everything was a joke, and I just think that wasn't really what the story called for. I think Ragnarok did a decent job looking back now. I used to think that Ragnarok kind of overdid the jokes, and sometimes they did, but for the most part, when things were serious, Taika let things be serious, and it seemed like with Thor: Love and Thunder, he overdid it. Things weren't allowed to just take a moment to be serious and relax and take a breather. You were never allowed to do that, and I think that was a problem with this movie. Someone put it in okay. I would completely understand if you said bad, though. I'd understand that. I think it's got some redeeming qualities, though. Puts it in the okay category. I might understand good, too, but this is definitely not a top-tier MCU movie. That's for sure. It has elements that could have gotten it there, though. But no, as far as the movie itself, no. Like it can't. It's not good. Next one, She-Hulk. I might get some hate, but I think it's okay. This is what I gotta say. Is it a good show? No. But is it entertaining? Yeah, it's entertaining. I think it's one of those things you have to just kind of admit. It is entertaining, but it's not good. So there's still elements to it that are intriguing, interesting. I think that She-Hulk is going to be really good for the future of the MCU. So she's going to work out. Her show's rough, but she's going to be a good ensemble character later on, like I said with Shang-Chi. I think like Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, Daredevil, and Deadpool, when he gets brought into the MCU, when those four are bantering with each other, it's going to be great. You're never going to remember the show. It's going to be great. Wakanda Forever. This is tough because I did like a lot of elements for Wakanda Forever. I think the biggest issue for me, it's not the movie's fault about this. It's no one's fault. Okay, so the biggest hindrance about this movie is that it felt like it was a movie that was written with Chadwick in mind, with Chadwick in it. And then they're like, oh, Chadwick passed away now, which is unfortunate. It sucks, obviously. Let's take some elements of this script, and we're going to bring in new elements to kind of change things around. We're going to put Shuri in the front. She'll be the new Black Panther. That'll be that. And it feels like it was exactly what I just said. Like it was another skeleton of it was an exoskeleton of another story. They took out some bones, and then they put in new bones, and there's other pieces, and that's kind of what it feels like. I still think like overall it was a pretty solid movie. I can't put it behind She-Hulk. What am I doing? I got to put it up. Maybe behind Guardians 1. Maybe on a given day I might put it a little higher. I think that's a solid spot for it. There are elements about this movie that are really good. There are elements about this movie that are just really like boring and rough. But it just came out. I'll have to give it a little more time to truly be able to, look at it fully, especially once the story that this is leading into comes out. We'll see how good this actually was by itself. And R.I.P. Chadwick. Hey, shit happens. That's life. So, okay, let's get to the last three here. No Way Home. I'm going to put No Way Home in the... At one time I'd say amazing. When it first came out, I really liked it, but I think I just really liked it because Toby and Andrew were in it. As time has gone on, though, the biggest hindrance of this movie is the setup. The setup of the movie is so dumb. And that's just the truth. Like, no matter how cool the movie is and how many cool elements that happen to it and all the different things that happen with the characters, no matter how cool all that stuff is, the movie setup is so dumb. Still, while the setup is so dumb and it keeps the movie from being amazing, it's still a really good and entertaining film. I rewatched this one like a month ago, and I was like, yep, that's a dumb beginning, but man, is it a really good movie. Like, it's such a fun and entertaining movie, so I got to keep it up in the good. I'd understand an argument for bad, though. I'd understand why you'd consider this bad, but it is just so good, in my opinion. I don't know, like a little bit in front of Spider-Man 1. We'll put it there. It's got really cool elements. It pushes Tom Holland's character to the limit. It's really good. So, there's that. Now let's get to the final two. The two big boys. Infinity War. That's amazing. We got to put it amazing. Okay, I'm going to put it in front of Spider-Man 2. Just a little bit better than Spider-Man 2. In my mind, these three are all in like the same tier. Like if there was a super amazing, that's what these guys go to. You know what I mean? Like they're the next tier up. But yeah, super good movie. Great way to bring all the characters again together. And then of course, the coolest thing about this movie that a lot of people don't talk about is that the main character of this movie isn't Captain America. It's not Iron Man. It's not Thor. It's none of the Avengers. The main character of this movie is the villain, Thanos. You don't believe me? Watch it again with the idea that Thanos is the main character. You're going to be like, whoa, this is Thanos' movie. This is definitely the villain's movie. It's great. It's great. Like, I don't even think I can come up with a con for this movie. I'd say, well, I'll talk about it when I get to Endgame, but let's just go to Endgame anyways. This is part 1. Endgame is part 2. I actually think that Endgame is better than Infinity War. And the biggest thing for me, the reason why Endgame is the best is because of the ending. I think if we're talking about what is the better overall movie, Infinity War is better. But if we're talking about like all the different elements from each movie, which one is the best overall with everything that goes into it? Considering that Avengers Infinity War is part 1, it's hindered because we don't know what part 2 is yet. So if you look at part 2, the Infinity War actually helps support part 2 being better anyways. And of course, the final battle, Cap using his hammer and shield, the portals, everyone coming together to take down the bad guys. It's great. It's amazing. It is the best of the best in my opinion. It finished the story for a lot of people, and a lot of people stopped watching after that, and that's understandable because it really was the ending for a lot of people. So if you look at all these movies, there is only 2 Phase 4 in the good category. There's none in the amazing. I think Phase 4 is kind of like a lull for a lot of people. Like, it's all just kind of like, okay. And a lot of Phase 4 wasn't really able to convince people to come back for Phase 5. I'll be honest, when all these movies were coming out, I was very excited to see all of them. I think I've seen every Phase 1 to Phase 3 movie in theaters. But after Phase 3, now of course you have to consider the pandemic when it comes to this stuff too, but I wasn't in a rush to see Shang-Chi. I wasn't in a rush to see like Wakanda Forever. I spent a few weeks just not watching that. Black Widow I think came to Disney Plus, but you know, a lot of this stuff I waited to see it. I wasn't super excited about. The only things I truly had to see in theaters was Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, and Spider-Man: No Way Home. Oh, and Eternals. I saw Eternals too, which I was pleasantly surprised by when I watched it. It's kind of scary to think about the future of the MCU, especially if you're a massive fan. I don't know if I can look forward and say I'm super excited about anything. I think I'm intrigued. You know, like I'm intrigued about what's going to happen next. But it's not the same with Thanos. Like Thanos, I was excited for every addition to that story. And with Phase 4, I'm just kind of like, I'll see him, but like I'm not like super excited. So that might just be me. What do you guys think in the comments below? How would you rank these movies? If you want to, go ahead, rank every single one down there below, or just give me your top 5 or your least top 5. Let me know in the comments. yeah, this is a longer video of mine. I'm not going to be doing many videos this length. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any ideas for future tier lists like this, let me know in the comments below. I'll be doing more videos like this. I'm going to try to do like a tier list a week. So yeah, just leave me a comment. And if I use your suggestion, I'll give you a shout out in the video. But thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one. Peace.